and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Dinesh D'Souza's new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, based on the #1 international bestseller by Jonathan Cahn. The Dragon's Prophecy offers new understanding on Israel, radical Islam, anti-Semitism, and biblical prophecy. Could it be that the fate of the world, of all of humanity itself, is tied to what we're now seeing happen in the Middle East? In theaters 2 nights only, October 6th and October 8th, streaming and DVDs available October 9th. All tickets and pre-orders at thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. Tonight, we're joined by host of the Dinesh D'Souza podcast, whose new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, is in theaters October 6th and the 8th. My friend, you know him. We all love him. Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh, thank you so much. We're just talking about how you've been one of our longest running guests on this show. So I want to start out by saying thank you for that. We're always trying to give people the latest information, bring great guests in. You clearly have been one of those. And I want everybody to hear about this new movie. Now, I'll be honest, the title's a little intense, Dinesh. The Dragon's Prophecy. Tell me about the whole thing. What do people need to know about it? And what does the title represent?
So there's a passage in the book of Revelation which describes the dragon. Now, the dragon is the devil. And the dragon is at war with a woman who is pregnant. The woman represents Israel. The pregnancy represents Christ, the Messiah. So this is a metaphor for sort of the spiritual war raging in the country, right? People say there's a spiritual battle going on, but they often don't ask, well, who's fighting? Like, who's at it? And what are the stakes? What are they fighting over? Well, it's really God versus the devil, and they're fighting over us. I mean, our souls, right? That's really what's at stake. So kind of the theme of this movie, a little different than my earlier films. As you know, Lara, my earlier films have been about the meaning of America. They've been very much enmeshed in the political, and this one is too. This one has Netanyahu in it. It has Huckabee in it. It addresses some of the issues raised by Tucker Carlson, so it couldn't be more timely, but it also applies this kind of wider biblical lens. And the argument here is that some of the battles we're seeing between Israel and Hamas, they're like a recreation almost of ancient battles in the Bible between the Israelites and their classic enemies called the Philistines. Many people may not know that the term Philistine and Palestine, same word. And same word kind of carried through time and carried through history. And if you look at a guy, there's a guy in the Bible named Samson. He's the strong guy. He represents the strength of Israel. And he's captured by the Philistines. And by the way, the Philistines are headquartered in an area that today we call the Gaza Strip. Then it was called Philistia. And so anyway, Samson is captured by the Philistines. They blind him. They blind him exactly the way Israel was, quote, blinded on October 7th. They drag him, the Bible says, to Gaza. And then it says that the people of Gaza demanded strip him and bring him out for our entertainment. And so they danced around. They were very happy. Very similar to what happened right after October 7th, where hostages were brought out. They were stripped. And then all these people cheering, Allahu Akbar. So weirdly, you could say Samson was the first hostage of Gaza right out of the Bible. So part of what our film does is it makes these kinds of very provocative and interesting connections between politics and culture and morality and the Bible.
It's so interesting, so cool. I mean, I can't wait to see it. They say history repeats itself, right, Dinesh? And we know that. We if you are a student of history at all, you can see it happening. And so this is a great example maybe of just that. And I love that you pointed out, and maybe it was your, reason for wanting to make this film, but the fight between good versus evil. I feel like you're right. People are constantly talking about this, and I think we feel it. Like, it's just a palpable thing wherever you are in maybe the world, but certainly here in America. People are continuing to say that in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death. People have been saying that. Why do you think right now people are saying that? Why is everything so heightened right now? And it kind of does feel like that maybe we are in some ways having a bit of a spiritual revival across the country, or at the very least, Dinesh, people are starting to pay attention a little bit more.
This is all very profound, Laura, and I would answer this way. If I think back to my early career, a generation ago, the Reagan years, our assumption kind of on the right among the Republicans was that the other side was well-meaning but ignorant. And so our job was to educate them, to enlighten them, to raise their consciousness. I think we're much more aware today, particularly in the aftermath of Obama and the Biden regime, that yes, there is a lot of ignorance, but there's just a lot of just downright wickedness. There are people who are diabolical. They operate, they stab you in the back. And not only that, I think in the case of Israel, what they do is they put good people in a bad situation. You know, it's kind of like if somebody were to do a home invasion on me, and they like shoot up the place, they harm my family, and then they run away, and I chase them, but they go into a van and they come out with their own wives and kids, and they stick them in front of them, and they go, listen, don't you dare shoot, because then you're going to be the bad guy. This is what's happening with Israel. And I have a line in the film that to me has been haunting me ever since. It was by Golda Meir, the former prime minister of Israel. She goes, we can forgive the Arabs for killing our children. But she says, but we can't forgive them for making us kill their children. Think about this. She recognizes that the civilian deaths on both sides are horrible. They don't need to happen. Why are they happening? Because Hamas has a strategy of using civilians in this way. I saw a mother recently on TV and she was boasting, I've given like 2 kids to the war, and you expect her to say, and I don't want to give my other 3, but she says the opposite. She goes, I can't wait for the blood of my other 3 to be sacrificed as well. So there is evil at play here. And part of the job of this film is to kind of call it out, demonstrate it. Also, by the way, show people October 7th, because many people know about it, but very few people have seen it. And one of the strengths of my films, even going back to 2000 Mules, I don't like to just talk about election fraud, right? I like to show you, this is the middle of the night. Look at this guy pulling up in a car. He's looking to the left and right. I want to show you what they were doing. And similarly, on October 7th, as you know, Hamas filmed it. And so we have footage opening the film, and you're not even on the Israel side. You're riding in with Hamas as if you have a GoPro on your head and you're on a motorcycle, because the film is shot from the terrorist point of view.
Wow, amazing. What made you feel like you wanted to make this film? Because to your point, this isn't really totally in line with things that I think people connect to you, Dinesh. I think we do think of, and there are politics obviously involved in this to an extent, but it does seem a little deeper than that, more biblical, more, based in religion and history, so to speak. I know that the entire film is based on a book by Jonathan Cahn, but what was it that inspired you to say, hey, right now is the time that I want to make this film?
A little before October 7th, my wife and I were in Israel, and we were exposed to something I didn't know much about, and that is biblical archaeology. So in the Bible, you have these major characters like King David, the prophets Isaiah and Jeremiah, also a figure like Pontius Pilate. And for hundreds of years, even thousands of years, they were in the Bible, but there was no non-biblical or outside the Bible corroboration. You couldn't prove that they existed. And so a lot of skeptics, a lot of atheists were like, these people are all made up. The Bible was written hundreds of years later. Now, the beauty of this biblical archaeology is it doesn't just prove King David. In fact, you see in the film, I'm standing in the ruins of his palace. You know, these giant walls, 20 feet thick. You have seals coming out of the ground that ratify the presence of Jeremiah, Isaiah. These are real people. But not only that, you also find very minor figures in the Bible who are mentioned like once. And in a famous scene in the Bible, there's the prophet Jeremiah, and he's railing against the king. The king is kind of worried, and the king finds 2 of his, essentially assistants. One is a guy named Jehukal, son of Shelemiah. This guy's mentioned twice in the Bible. And the king says, go keep an eye on the prophet Jeremiah. I'm kind of worried about the guy. So that's it. Fast forward 2,500 years. They're digging in Jerusalem. Out comes a clay seal from the ground. It's dated to 2,600 years ago. It says on the seal, Jehukal, son of Shelemiah. So think about this. That was a real guy. King Zedekiah was a real guy. The prophet was a real guy. And not only that, If you were writing the Bible 300 years later, you would never know about this guy. This would be like some intern currently working in the White House for your father-in-law, and then hundreds of years later, his seal turns up. And well, guess what? This is not made up. Nobody would have even known about this guy. And yet here he is. For the first time, he leaps out of the pages of the Bible and into the pages of history and archaeology. So I found a beautiful way to tie together biblical archaeology, October 7th and everything going on now, and a little hint of biblical prophecy, like what can we expect, what's coming next. And so I'm very kind of proud and moved of this film, and I think it will affect people in a very different way than some of my earlier films also.
There's a new docufilm by Angel called RFK Legacy. I encourage you all to watch it. It's produced by Oliver Stone, and it tells the story of Robert F. Kennedy, a man who stood for truth and justice and who ultimately gave everything for it, and how his son, my friend RFK Jr., has carried that torch forward. History repeats itself. Giant voices silenced, families left grieving, and a movement left asking, where do we go from here? If you're feeling the weight of what's happened, like I am, I want to encourage you to watch RFK Legacy. Let me remind you that we honor those we lose by refusing to stay silent. Let's be like RFK Jr. and his father and have the determination and resolve to help make the world a better place. Stream it today at Angel. Talk about it with your family and friends, and let it inspire you to keep shining a light in dark places. Because when history echoes, we can answer back with courage. Well, Dinesh D'Souza has done it again. His new eye-opening movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, illuminates a 3,000-year-old mystery about Israel, the dark resurrection, and the end of days. The nation of Israel is a resurrected nation, but what if there was going to be a resurrection of another people, an enemy of Israel? After the horrific attack on October 7th, The Dragon's Prophecy offers new understanding on Israel, radical Islam, anti-Semitism, and biblical prophecy. Could it be that the fate of the world, of all of humanity itself, is tied to what we're seeing happen in the Middle East? Based on the #1 international bestseller by Jonathan Cahn, The Dragon's Prophecy reveals how another realm could be transforming our world as we speak. Don't miss Dinesh D'Souza's new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, in theaters 2 nights only, October 6th and 8th. Streaming and DVDs available October 9th. All tickets and pre-orders at thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. That's thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. Wow, that's so cool. What an interesting story, and what a cool find. And part of being a Christian and being a believer in Christ is that you have to have faith, Dinesh, right? Like, we don't expect to have all of the answers laid out in front of us and all the proof that these people existed, that this stuff was real, that what's in the Bible we should believe. That's part of being a Christian. But it's amazing that you find this stuff and we're able to actually talk about a guy, from 2,600 years ago. That's absolutely incredible. And you shot most of this film in Israel, right?
Exactly. And we were lucky to be able to do that because we found a little 9-day slot when, the airlines were flying and the airport wasn't closed and the war isn't going on. And by the way, we went to the Gaza border. I'm interviewing a woman in a kibbutz. She was a survivor of October 7th. And as I'm talking to her in her front yard, like, bombs are going off. You can hear machine gun fire. So I wanted this film to be like in the teeth of the action. And yes, it takes you right into the archaeological pits. It takes you to a place called Shiloh, where you have these red heifers. These are actually animals intended for sacrifice in the biblical Temple of Solomon. I mean, stuff that seems almost like borderline wild, really out there. But guess what? The rabbis are actually expecting the temple to be rebuilt. And for the temple to be rebuilt, of course, the Al-Aqsa Mosque would have to come down. So this is the area, the controversial area of biblical prophecy. We only touch on it in the film. If I can say, Lara, the website, thedragonsprophecyfilm.com, thedragonsprophecyfilm.com, that's where you can get movie tickets. That's where you can order streaming and DVD, which becomes available October 9th. So I'm very excited about the film, and it, by the way, answers also both the left-wing and I would say now the emerging right-wing critique of Israel. The left-wing, of course, is Israel's a colonizer, what about genocide? But you also have some interesting questions from the right, like how do we know that the Jews of today are the direct descendants of the ancient Israelites? So we explore this through archaeology, but I also asked Netanyahu, I go, hey, Tucker Carlson posed this question to Ted Cruz. What's your answer? Boom. Of course, he swings right back. And it's all very, very fascinating.
Wow. It's so cool. And I love that you did it. I feel like having something right now in this time where you actually get taken into Israel, it's so incredible because we see that there's hopefully a peace agreement at foot, right now in this region of the world. And listen, Dinesh, a lot of us never thought that would happen. You have President Trump, who during his first term did something historic with the Abraham Accords and actually had a peace agreement there in the Middle East. What is your sense, having been over there very recently, having shot this film, do you feel like that could be a possibility in the future? We know that, this week you saw President Trump and Netanyahu meeting to talk about that and come to some sort of a deal. Where do you think things go from here? I know you prophesized to some extent in the film, but what do you think about this region of the world?
Well, President Trump has proven that he's a little bit of a miracle worker in the sense that he'll say something and the first reaction is going to be, that's ridiculous. It can't possibly be that way. And so he'll say, well, why doesn't Gaza become a Riviera? And of course, all the pundits are going to go, well, this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. But I think what President Trump is getting at is, look, you have to offer those people who have been inured to war, they've been indoctrinated into terrorism. If you offer them a rival path, which is, listen, you're going to get a small apartment and you're going to get a job and you're going to have a path not just to peace but also to some prosperity. And you haven't really had that in 75 years. And why wouldn't you want that instead of just sacrificing your kids one on top of the other? Now, maybe the indoctrination runs too deep. Maybe they're going to say no. Maybe they reject the fork in the road. But at the very least, it should be offered to them. So I think that the beauty of what's being attempted now is really a much more imaginative approach to the problem. I mean, we've seen, of course, the Carter plan and, of course, plans going back, the Clinton peace plan. None of that has really not only worked, none of that has even made measurable progress. So I think this is going to be a big one. And if President Trump can get us to a point of peace, this will be just a magnificent accomplishment. And I'm hopeful it will happen.
Well, I want everybody out there to go watch your film, and I hope people go see it in the movie theaters. We have to send a signal out there, Dinesh, to the Hollywood elite, to the people who think that they're in charge of all of us and what we're able to see and what we, watch on television and in movie theaters. But if people go out there in October 8th, right, you
October
have it
6th and
October
October
6th and
8th,
October 8th.
2 days.
It's in the movie theaters, right?
That's right.
I think it's important people go see it. I'd love people to stream it as well. But to me, that's the big thing is let's show these people who think that they know better for all of us that actually we're going to go out and we're going to support films that speak to what we want to learn about and what we want to know and support people like you, Dinesh. I think it's important people go see it in the movie theaters. What do you think?
Well, I make them for the theater. There are some documentaries that are kind of a little bit more cut and paste and so on, but my films are very cinematic. One of the interesting things about this film is we recreate the past through AI. And so we have a combination of our on-site footage, we have riveting interviews, and then we integrate. So if you want to see, for example, the pilgrims in Jesus' time walking from the pool of Siloam to the pilgrimage road, like I'm standing on the ruins of the pilgrimage road, and then we fade into an AI-generated scene right out of Jesus' own time. Jesus himself is bathing in the pool. They're all then walking on the road. You can see the stalls. You can see they're selling, bread and coins and fowls. And remember when Mary and Joseph lost Jesus, you can see how that happened because it's chaos over there. And then they found him in the temple and he's like arguing with the rabbis. So the Bible in a way comes to life geographically because we're in Israel, but also imaginatively through this cutting edge AI, which I think is something I'm very proud that we've integrated effectively into this film.
So cool. I'm wishing you the best of luck. Give everybody again where they can find out. I assume you have on your website movie theaters, they can purchase tickets, etc.
Absolutely. Don't go to the theater buying tickets there. You have to buy them off the website. So the website, very simple, The Dragons, plural, thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. And you can get theater tickets, which would be great, just like Lara said. If you insist on watching at home, I'm not going to argue with you. It starts October 9th, and you can sign up for streaming and pre-order the DVDs as well.
Amazing. Great stuff. You always bring us new, fresh, and very relevant, very good information, Dinesh. Thank you so much for putting the time into this film. I wish you great success with it. Everybody go see it. thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. And Dinesh D'Souza, as always, we are so happy to have you on the show. Come back soon, my friend, and best of luck with this project.
Thank you so much.
All right, to everybody at home, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View. And I won't back down.